I guess I don't give myself enough credit maybe when it comes to that, because I'm just like, this is my life. These were the cards that I was dealt. And I've always tried to just make the best of every situation and come out stronger and positive.
Hi there, I'm Marta Ruszczyńska, and I would like to welcome you to a new journey into the world of transformation. This isn't just another pep talk. This is the Reinvention Game, the podcast about bold choices, fresh starts, and the power of transformation, where I will explore the crossroads where people take daring steps to redefine their future. I'm really excited to speak with my friend Jenna Konyok, someone who made a bold decision to walk away from a stable career and completely reinvent her life. What started as a well-planned path in criminal justice took an unexpected turn after one life-changing experience. In this episode, Jenna shares what it took to leave comfort behind, reconnect with a long-lost dream, and build a life that reflects who she truly is. Her story is honest, powerful, and a reminder that it's never too late to change course. Hi, Jenna. It's so nice to see you. We haven't seen each other for 3 years?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Has it been 3 years already? That's
Yes.
crazy.
Yeah. So you're in Florida right now, right?
I am. Yes. So I'm currently in South Florida. I live in Jupiter.
Okay. So for our listeners, I was trying to have this podcast with Jenna for a long time. And the last episode, or the last time I was trying to set it up with Jenna, she was diving with manatees. So you can see how cool Jenna's life is right now. And it's awesome to learn new things about you, because I had to dig a little bit, be a little bit talky to get some information about you. And it's absolutely insane because you worked in prison, you worked with juveniles, with the house of troubled boys, and now you're diving with sharks, tiger sharks, hammer sharks. It's absolutely amazing.
Yes, I feel like my life experience, work experience is very crazy and all over the place, a little unique, I guess. But yeah, it's been a wild ride.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique path.
Yeah.
So you studied sociology with a concentration in criminal justice and minor in psychology, right? So what originally drew you to this field?
Yeah, that is a good question. So it's interesting. As a child, actually, I always wanted to be a marine biologist. I used to tell everybody, one day I'm going to be a marine biologist. One day I'm going to swim with dolphins. I literally, that's what I thought I was going to do. And then I guess it was probably when I was in high school. I come from a family where there's a lot of drug use, and unfortunately, but fortunately as well, that's what led me to studying that in college, because I had two brothers who struggled with addiction and I didn't quite understand it. This is obviously going back to we're 2008, maybe 2009 when this was happening. So drug, the drug epidemic and everything, it was still so new. So I just didn't know a lot about it. Wanted to try to kind of understand a little bit more. And so I thought that I was going to study, psychology, sociology, criminal justice, all those things, to eventually be a drug counselor. And then I kind of just ended, obviously, on a different path. But yeah, that's kind of what drew me to that, field of studies, is just wanting to understand a little bit more about the brain and how it works and how societal impacts affect a person and drugs can affect a person, all these little things, family dynamics, just kind of wanted to learn a little bit more about that. And I was really fascinated in it.
So did you go into the study field to eventually help your brothers?
Yes, I guess, and probably to kind of help myself too and help my mom. My mom she's been a single mom her whole life, raising 3 kids kind of on her own. And doing that in itself must have been like really challenging. And then to also be managing 2 children who do have drug addiction complications, like it was a lot. So watching her go through that, kind of wanted to just, understand it more and how to be more supportive, how to, I guess, help in a way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what did you learn that helped you stay strong and supportive?
I guess, the biggest lesson in all of that was learning how much addiction really is a disease and understanding that it's not what that individual person wants to be choosing for themselves. Like I never felt like my brothers woke up in the morning and wanted to choose to do drugs, Thankfully, they're both very healthy and happy and in recovery. And I'm very grateful for that. But yeah, I think that was kind of the biggest lesson. And also just through my studies of psychology, sociology, just understanding like how much your childhood affects you and your family dynamics affect you and your friend groups, like all of these little things kind of put you on a path and influence certain decisions. And yeah.
So would you say you're more resilient compared to your friends because of your life experience?
I think everybody has things that they've been through, and everybody's trauma looks like a little bit different. But I've been through some hard things, and just from conversations with friends and such, like I mean, I've been through some things that other people I know haven't, and maybe that's made me a little bit like tougher and resilient and all that. But I don't know. I guess I don't give myself enough credit maybe when it comes to that because I'm just like, this is my life. These were the cards that I was dealt. And I've always tried to just make the best of every situation and come out stronger and positive. So, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like you played your cards very well. And I'm so happy to hear that your brothers are okay and healthy right now. And I hope that your mom is thriving as well.
She is. Yeah. Thank you. She's great. Yeah. I think she can sleep a lot better at night now. So,
That's good to hear.
yeah.
So after your studies, you went to work in the behavioral and mental health center with children. How was that?
Yeah, that was really interesting. Again, I kind of landed in a place where I never really expected to be working. So I worked with the same nonprofit for about 4 years. And I started in an entry level role with them. I started just as, they called it back then, it was like a youth counselor, right? So I was more like, I was hands on with the kids. And these were children that lived in a residential facility. They weren't able to live in the home because of their behaviors. Also, a very unique kind of environment. These were young boys who struggled with sexually problematic behaviors. I never imagined that I would be doing work like that, but that's where I found myself. And like I said, I spent 4 years there. I kind of climbed the ladder. I started as a youth counselor and then started to do more of like social work. So I was working with same kind of population of young men who had some difficulties, but they were living in the home. So I would travel kind of all over Pennsylvania, driving to different houses and meeting with kids and their families and setting goals and helping them reach those goals. After that, I was given a really cool opportunity to basically take over a brand new program. I got to kind of like make it my own. It was like my baby. And so this was another like residential facility setting where like 8 boys, they lived there and received treatment. But it was a really cool program, and it was different than anything else that was kind of out there at the time because it allowed the kids to live in this like residential treatment facility environment, but still go to school in the public. So that I would say like that position really, it taught me a lot. It also made me grow up very quickly because I think I was maybe at that time, I guess I was probably 23 or 24. I mean, and I was running an entire house, a whole, like, I was overseeing an entire team of people. I was responsible for 8 children at a time. Like, it was a lot, but very cool experience. Another experience that I'm just like really grateful for because I just, yeah, learned a ton and obviously like very rewarding work as well, which is what's meaningful to me, like making a difference and having a purpose is like super powerful in my opinion. So yeah, that was cool. After that, I continued with the company, but I was promoted into one more position with them. I kind of just oversaw all of our residential programs. And yeah, and then, I made a big life change and huge transition. And I left that behind to become a scuba diver. So I'm sure we'll dive into that. No pun intended. Yeah, we'll dive into that in a bit. But yeah, that was it feels like a lifetime ago now that I was working in that industry. But yeah, it was very rewarding.
It sounds super, super interesting, but it also sounds like it was really, really challenging.
Yes, yes. Very challenging mentally, emotionally, just it was exhausting, and especially at that age. I mean, I think looking back, I think maybe I was like, I did my best and I think I did a good job. Like, I was always kind of acknowledged for the work that I was doing. But I think I might have been too young for a role like that, and like that amount of responsibility. But, you find those moments, I think for me, like those like small moments with the children where you see that like appreciation from them or a little bit of a change in the way that they are wanting to be better. And like you find those little positive moments where you're just like, wow, this is really impactful, and I'm happy that I get to be a part of like this journey with them. So it's like you hold on to those little moments. It's stressful and tiring and emotionally a lot, but when you have those moments, you're like, okay, it's worth it.
Hmm. So I jumped a little bit. So before that, you were working in prison. How was that and how did it differ? And why didn't you decide to go back to working in prison?
Yeah. So that was an internship I did during college. Ugh, I'm really traveling back now. It's like not really something that I think about or talk about often, but it was fascinating, I think it opens your eyes to just obviously like our prison system. And then, like having at that time, obviously, like I was in college and I was studying sociology, you really kind of like, and then like you're studying this subject, but then you're actually like in front of people, who are in prison for, whatever the crime might be or situation might be. And you're just like, wow, but like, it's like I don't know, it's really kind of seeing the person in front of you and really understanding that like these are still people and people make mistakes, but like, one bad decision in life doesn't make you a terrible person, so I think it was, very fascinating, also a big learning experience. As a younger female, a little bit intimidating on some days, if I'm being honest. But, again, I guess like going back to the resilience thing, like I do have thick skin. So I'm like, I was just like, whatever. These are just people, they're like, it's just like being out in the street, right? Like hold your head high, be confident. But yeah, that was interesting. I guess I enjoyed it, but I never imagined like that I would end up working in a prison, like as a full-time job. Not that I disliked it, but I just don't think that it was for me. I was working alongside the case managers, which was like, if I were going to do anything in a prison, like that is what it would be. Because as the case manager in the prison, you're you're meeting with the inmates daily and you're assisting them and you're kind of like that connection to the outside world. So if the inmate needs something off the internet or out of a certain book, or they need to get in contact with a certain lawyer, like you're kind of that middle person to assist them and help them like transition if they're going to be discharged from prison, things like that. So, I guess it kind of goes back to just the things that I find meaning in is helping people and trying to make a difference and trying to make, I don't know, life a little bit easier maybe for those that are struggling. So
it's incredible how strong you are, and especially how you're saying that, well, just be confident. I admire that. So, what was the most eye opening or challenging aspect of that experience?
I guess the most challenging would be maybe just like the days where, the prison that I worked in, and I imagine most prisons are designed this way or set up this way, but you have different levels, like different cell blocks based on like certain crimes and things like that. And there were days where I would need to be meeting with inmates who were a part of a cell block that were rapists and murderers and, these really like high profile crimes. So maybe that was probably like the most challenging is, because you start to kind of think about like the victim behind the situation, and you have to keep that out of your mind because your job is to be there and to assist them. So maybe that was like the most challenging, but again, like the point is to just kind of like be there for them at the end of the day. Like they're humans and they have needs and, you have to do your best. So, yeah.
So, what lessons would you say you took from working in prison into working with juvenile?
Everybody deserves a second chance. Everybody deserves the opportunity to change. Again, like one wrong decision doesn't define who you are and it shouldn't define the rest of your life, and sometimes people just need one, even if it's one person, to have their back and support them and show kindness. I think that that's probably some of what I took with me.
So, you said that working in the juvenile house was very emotionally complex. So, how did you manage with the weight of those experiences? And did you ever struggle with burnout? And you eventually changed your path. So, what was like the final straw that broke you?
Yeah, I think that I've maybe from, some of my own childhood traumas and some of the things that I had already gone through, again, with like my brother's addiction issues. And, I think I've always done a really good job at compartmentalizing and being able to kind of like switch my brain off. So, I might have had a really tough day at work dealing with a certain situation with a child, but I typically could do a good job of going home and, just doing something to decompress, whether it's reading or journaling or meditating, like very big into all of those things. And, I've done my own therapy. So all of those things help you and kind of give you the tools that maybe you need to like decompress and not carry like all of that emotional weight with you. So the final straw, it's interesting. I am a very big believer in like signs from the universe and, looking for those signs in little places and little things. And I do, like, maybe it sounds cheesy to some people, but I felt like everything was kind of just aligning and it was setting me up for like this next big move in life and this like big transition. But I guess the way it kind of happened is, while I was working in that industry, I met somebody at that company. Him and his wife were divers. And I remember one day just like having a conversation with this guy, and he's telling me about how him and his wife just came back from, I think it was like Bonaire or something, and they were on this amazing diving trip. And I was like, what? I was like, you can dive recreationally? Like, you can just like be a certified diver and like go dive for fun? Like, and he's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And so he like starts telling me all about it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I need to do this. Like, I've always wanted to like be in the water, like be in the ocean. I love marine animals. Again, like when I was younger, I was like, I'm going to be a marine biologist one day. So I think I was like, well, maybe that will fill my void, of this, like, I don't know, like, it's always something I wanted to do, but maybe if I just like go be a diver for fun and like travel to dive, like it'll fill that, like, emptiness in me that I need. So I did the open water certification, and I actually got certified in a quarry in Pennsylvania. So it was very cold and very dark, and there's not a lot to see there, but I still loved it. Like, I was amazed. I will never forget the first time, like, I was breathing underwater. And I was in a pool, but I still thought it was like the coolest thing. So kind of going back to, the transition and how it happened, I was heading for a dive trip in Mexico. My brother was going with me because he did the certifications with me. And so him and I take a trip to Mexico. And right before I'm leaving for my trip, something happened at my job that I had with my employer. And I was basically called into the office and like kind of challenged on a decision that I had made at my, like, where I was working and stuff. And not to kind of get into the details of it because I want to, respect the privacy of that situation. But I felt kind of attacked in that situation. I felt very unappreciated of like everything that I had already like done and given to this company. And it was hard for me because I was very like emotionally, of course, like attached and involved in this company and the kids and the work that I was doing. And then it felt like one decision, and then to be kind of cornered and attacked the way that I was in the meeting that I had to have with some like higher ups and stuff. I felt very wronged. And so this happens like right before I'm heading to Mexico. I'm like taking a week off, which like I never was able to take time off, So it was like, oh, this is how my trip was starting. I just remember being kind of back in that place, and it was really sad. But regardless, I go on the trip to Mexico, and I do my first dive in the ocean, and it was life-changing. I just remember like the feeling that I had of this, like, you're underwater, you're submerged, and like you can't hear any outside noise, and your mind is so at peace and so just like, I don't know, all you're thinking about is like, oh my gosh, I'm underwater right now. Like, there's the sea turtle, look at all these fish and the colors, and it's like, this is the coolest thing ever. And I think I just had like an epiphany on that trip. I'm at this point maybe 24. I'm like, I'm 24 years old and I'm working this 9 to 5 job, which typically was more than 9 to 5 because of my responsibilities. I was constantly on call, and I'm so stressed and overworked and emotionally drained. And like, I'm like, what am I doing? I'm like, I could be out diving every day, I was meeting dive instructors on this trip and realizing that you could actually make diving a career. And yeah, it was one of those moments where it just felt like everything was aligning and the universe was sending me this sign of like, this is the reality of like, you're replaceable. Like, you can give all your time and energy and like blood, sweat, and tears into a company, but at the end of the day, like, they might not have your back. And like, that's how I felt. I felt like they didn't have my back. And I just was like, what am I doing this for? So yeah, that was kind of how I made that decision to leave my stability of, a decent job, decent pay. Yeah.
There's so many aspects that I want to talk about after what you just said.
I know, I feel like I ramble so much.
No, it's awesome. It's awesome. You have so much excitement in you. Like, when you start talking about diving, you're just glowing.
Oh.
So it's amazing to see. But what really interested me is that you were very successful at 24. You had a stable job. You were doing what you were studying. Kind of like you fulfilled your dream and you were helping people and you felt very satisfied. But at the same time, you used the word that you felt like you gotta fill the void. So what was missing?
I think what was missing was adventure and just, I think I'm a little bit of a free spirit, and that's something like my mom has always called me free spirited, my father as well. I don't love routine. Like I don't love societal norms. Like I kind of am just like, to me, and everybody is different, I have really good friends who they've gone the route of college, job, marriage, kids. And that's great and that works for them, but it's just never really been my thing. Like to me, I'm like, I have one life to live. I have one chance at this. And we live on this big, beautiful planet where there's so much to see and do and explore and learn about. Like, I want to go out and do that as much as possible until like my time's up, and I don't want to be an 80-year-old woman on my deathbed like, oh, I wish I had done this, or I wish I had gone here, I'm alive right now. I want to do it now. So I think that's what was missing. And I think that's what I was starting to realize is like, I was living this life that I thought was what I had to do because it's kind of what people expect, like I went to college. I have all this student debt. Like, why would I not be working in my field? Why would I not, so you kind of feel pressured into that life. And then I guess I just realized that like, I don't have to do this right now. I could come back to it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, it's beautiful that you realized that and that you were brave to actually follow your gut feeling. So,
yeah.
Kudos.
Thank you.
So after Mexico trip, did you come back and just quit?
So it was interesting. It's so funny that we're meeting and like having this discussion now because at the new year in 2025, when 2025 started, I was like, I'm going to start a new journal because my last journal stayed with me all through from the day that I quit my last job and like started the diving career. That's when my journal started, and it's taken, it took me to this point. But so I was reading back on like my old entries and stuff when I started the new journal. I was like, wow, it's so crazy to look back on and see like everything that's unfolded, because when you're about to make a big life decision like that, it's terrifying. Like you're unprepared. But I think on that trip, I just kind of like, I had this realization, like, this is what I want to do. I had met some dive instructors and they told me a little bit about, what steps you need to take to become an instructor. And, they would share in their experiences and stuff. And I was like, oh, I could do this. And so I got home from Mexico trip and I just started looking into it more and how to actually do the certifications and what it would cost and what time you'd have to give. And so I like got all the details together. And then I was like, well, I need a savings. Like I need more money in my account because this is always like, I'm going to technically be out of like a paycheck for quite some time. And then even after that, who knows? Like, yeah, I'll be making money, but there's not a ton of money to be made in the diving industry. And so I wanted to have like a little bit of a safety net. And so I didn't tell anybody that I worked with, at my company. I was like, I'm not going to share this news now. But for the next, I guess it was maybe like 8 months or something like that, like close to a year, I was working that job. And then directly after that job, I was going to a restaurant and I was waiting tables. And I was working 2 full-time jobs, collecting the paycheck, of course, from my 9 to 5, and then just like stacking cash from my waitressing job. And all of that money from waitressing like was just put aside for a savings and to have. And I worked really freaking hard. And then, while I'm kind of doing that and, I applied for dive master, dive instructor program in Mexico, back to where I kind of had my realization, I was like, I'm going to go back there and do it. Like, that just feels right. So yeah, I like kind of got all that in order and like signed up for the classes and stuff and knew when my start date was going to be. And then it was like, oh my goodness, like preparing for, like, I needed to sell all of my furniture. Like I had an entire apartment filled with stuff. Like, it's like, what am I going to do with this? So just starting to prep for all that, selling furniture and just really like downsizing and just getting rid of things I truly didn't need. And then selling the car. Like I had a lease. So I was like trying to get rid of the lease that I had on my car. So it was a lot of, those logistics. And then I gave my job, I think maybe like, it's hard to say for sure. Maybe it was like a 2-month notice or something, like I obviously like, I cared about this job and the people and everything and the kids especially. And I wanted to make sure that they had enough time to replace me. And so, yeah, when I gave my notice, oh, I was terrified. Like I was shaking. I cried. It was a lot.
So how did you manage to work your full-time job at that wait tables? Like how were you able to do it physically and mentally since your job was already very mentally straining?
Yeah, gosh. Determination, just motivated, just very like excited about what was coming next and reminding myself that this is why I'm doing this. I'm exhausted right now, but what's the goal here, and trying to like keep that in mind. And, there were things along the way that, of course, that would just motivate me and be like, oh, yes, I'm doing the right thing. And one thing was that I feel like was really cool is a lot of the times when I would be waiting tables, I'm always like personable and talk with my customers and stuff, the guests, and they'd be like, well, I would say like, this is what I do during the day. And they'd be like, well, why are you here waiting tables? And I'd be like, oh, well, I'm quitting everything and selling everything and I'm moving to Mexico to become a dive instructor. And they're like, what? So it would always open this like really cool and fun conversation. And then it was always the generation above me, so a little bit older, that would be like, you know what? Good for you, because I wish I had done something like that. I wish I had followed a dream or a passion and like I get goosebumps because I'm like, it's so awesome to hear that, because that's where I feel a little bit badly that people walk around feeling that way, and wishing they had done something or did something. But like, I'm also like, yeah, that's why I'm doing it. Like point A is because I don't want to be in my 60s and be like, dang, why didn't I ever just, take a couple years and travel and dive? So it was just always encouraging, always motivating, the responses that I would get from people. Yeah.
So would you do anything different during your transition, or do you think everything played out how it was supposed to?
I don't think I would do anything differently. No, I think it worked out the way that it was meant to. We haven't gotten to 2020 yet, but COVID happened. So I was not, nobody obviously was prepared for COVID. But yeah, I am a big believer that like things just happen the way that they're supposed to. Everything happens for a reason. And so I feel like I did what I could. I did my best. Yeah.
So how was your trip to Mexico? Everything went well there?
It went well, yes. My oldest brother, who I'm very close with, he was kind of in his early stages of recovery at that point. I think maybe he had had like 2 years under his belt of recovery. He came with me. So that was like really awesome because, I feel like during like high school when, he was struggling and stuff, we lost out on a lot of like opportunity to bond and have this like good brother-sister relationship. So I loved that. Like he came with me. He did the entire course with me. So that was fun. And oh man, Mexico is like the best experience of my life. Like people, even like college. I mean, I had a great experience in college too, but I feel like that's always what people kind of cling to. Like your college years are the best years of your life. And I'm like, man, Mexico, becoming a scuba diving instructor, best experience of my life. I got to be in the water every day. I was meeting people who were like-minded and had the same kind of goals and mindset and this like sense of adventure. And you share this like love and passion for the ocean and marine life. And that was cool. That was really awesome to like connect with people like that. And then you're like, wow, I'm not alone. I'm not like a crazy person. Yeah. So, yeah.
So from scuba diving, you moved to free diving with sharks. How did that happen?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've always had a love for sharks, always fascinated by them. I believe it or not, one of the main reasons why I decided to get into like the diving industry was with the main goal and focus of one day working with sharks. But I knew like I needed to kind of like build myself up and, be a strong diver, a confident diver. It's not really an industry you typically just like jump into. I think just some little things along the way helped me get there. When I was doing my training in Mexico, I was training in an area where there's a good, like a high bull shark population, and we actually offered bull shark dives. And so I got a lot of exposure diving with sharks there. And then, when I wasn't working, if I had the opportunity to travel and dive, I did a lot of dive trips that were focused on sharks. So, I did like Guadalupe Island with the great white sharks, and then Socorro Islands, which has a ton of different shark species like schooling hammerheads and tiger sharks and silver tips and all these different sharks that you're getting to kind of observe and learn about their behaviors and everything. And then I was living in Florida as well at one point, working in the diving industry. And there's a huge shark population here. We have lemon shark, bull shark, tiger sharks, and hammerhead sharks. Like we have so many different species. And so I was doing a lot of shark diving here as well. And I found a job that was hiring in Hawaii that like specifically focused on taking people out, teaching them about the sharks and taking them diving then with sharks, like, educating how we can safely coexist with sharks and dive with them in a safe way. And yeah, like showing them that sharks are not these like scary monsters that people think that they are. And then, going into talking about conservation. And so I loved that. That's what I wanted to do. That was the goal, was to educate people on these very misunderstood animals, and then just kind of open their mind up a little bit, talk about conservation, talk about how much sharks really like need our help. Yeah.
So the passion just beams from you. Have you ever thought about going back to do marine biology?
It's something I think about. I have a few ideas of things I would like to do with the rest of my life and how I can kind of incorporate the ocean and sharks and children as well, because I do really love working with kids. And anytime I've had the opportunity to teach children how to dive, it's been like the coolest experience and the best part, because they're just amazed by the ocean and so excited. They see an angelfish and it's like the coolest thing in the world. And I'm like, I love that energy. So, and obviously like kids are the future. So I consider certain things. I don't know if school is it, but I might find some other ways to get back in it.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think is like the most important lesson that you've learned throughout your transition?
Most important lesson, I think, has been trust yourself. If you there's something that you want and you want it bad enough, it'll happen. You can make it happen. There might be these small bumps along the way and setbacks and, obstacles, but you just keep pushing forward. Like if you want it badly enough and you're passionate about it, then just go for it, because you never know if you don't try, and you just don't want to be looking back and be like, well, what could have been, right? Like, at least, hey, if you try it and you fail, then at least you tried, right? Like, it's better than not. So yeah, just go for it.
And you've never felt a guilt of like leaving back your previous jobs?
So I'm like really happy that you asked that question, because I do think one thing that maybe like people on the outside looking in at my life maybe wouldn't realize is like all the other little sacrifices that you do have to make to like live that life. I've had many days, whether it was when I was in Mexico or living in British Virgin Islands, Hawaii, like wherever I was, you're in my family, and like a lot of my like core friends are living on the East Coast of the United States. So you miss out on things. You miss out on birthday parties. You miss out on random get togethers. You miss out on holidays. there are sacrifices and, that's challenging for sure. But I will say that I'm very grateful to have like such a big and strong support system. My closest people really are the best. And without them, I don't think it would have been as easy or possible because they kind of helped ground me. But yeah, that part can be hard for sure, especially if something you're going after involves, traveling and living in different places, and that can be a challenge.
It's amazing that you still have such a strong supportive system. I
Yeah.
think everybody needs it. And if everybody should try to build it if they are struggling with it. But is there anything you would say to your younger self?
To my younger self, oh my goodness. It's funny because, I was listening to a podcast once before. I think it was like Jay Shetty's podcast On Purpose, and maybe it was like Kendall Jenner who said like, put a picture of like your younger self, or anytime you want to be mean to yourself or something, like look at a younger picture of you and like, just like back to that. And it's crazy because yeah, you just never know how life is going to unfold. So I guess what I would say to my younger self is, you got this. You're strong, and life is what you make it. Like, life is what you make of it. So just go out there and chase your dreams.
Yeah. My actually best friend told me about that thing to like look at your picture when you were young, because I'm the kind of person that like beats herself up constantly. And she's like, put your picture on your lock screen.
Yeah.
Next time when you're trying to say something bad to yourself, just look at the picture and think if you'd say that to this little girl. I
Yeah.
think it's really powerful.
So powerful. I got chills because it's like, yeah, it's you wouldn't say things the way that, like, how hard we are on ourselves. You wouldn't be that way to the younger version of you or to any little young person,
Yeah.
So yeah.
There are many people that live their life how the society told them to. What advice would you give them if they're feeling that strong urge to leave and do something else, but they still don't have the exact direction like you had? Like you had diving, and that's amazing. But some people still feel like, okay, I don't really know what I want to do, but I know I want to leave. What
Yes.
would you tell them?
Yeah. I can like kind of relate to that though, because all through like my childhood and high school and things like I never felt like I really belonged anywhere. Like I had friends, I had a great group of friends, but I wasn't this, straight A student. I wasn't in the band. I wasn't, doing any kind of sports. Like I never felt like I really belonged. And so when I found diving, I was like, finally, I have something that I like can involve myself in and I'm passionate about. And like this is my thing. Everybody has a thing, but I guess maybe not. But I guess my advice would just be, put yourself out there, go explore different things that maybe you find interesting. And like, I think learning something new is so exciting. Always trying to start a new hobby or something. I mean, I pick up so many little things and then like I find out I'm bad at it. So then I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not a watercolor painter, but I have all the supplies to do it, Just try something new and try to learn something new and you'll find something that clicks.
Yeah. I also like your approach that before you actually made your decision to leave everything, you secured yourself financially.
Yeah.
And I think that's, even though people are struggling with their current life, unfortunately, finances are still so, so, so important.
Yeah.
So I think that's another aspect that people cannot forget before they jump into something straight on.
Yes. You'll feel better about making the big change if you do have something kind of, like I said before, a safety net, something there to help you if it fails, because it can fail. I mean, it happens all the time. So having just a comfort of that would be helpful, I think, and useful for sure. That certainly gave me a little bit more like peace of mind when I was doing it.
Yeah. So you're in Florida right now,
Yes.
and you're a dive instructor or just taking people out for diving?
Yeah, so I came here and I'm no longer teaching because I've picked up a remote job doing something totally new, of course. Now I do like financial fraud investigations remotely, but on the weekends, I'm still working in the diving industry, working as a dive master. So just taking certified divers out on the boat, guiding them, pointing out fun critters, and still of course always talking about sharks and all my experiences diving with sharks and the conservation aspect and stuff. So I still kind of get that you know that interaction that I enjoy. But yeah.
So, what made you pick up the remote job? And are you enjoying it?
Yeah, I am. It pays the bills. It pays the bills, and it allows me to go and do the things that I'm truly passionate about and love doing. And I'm really grateful that I fell into this because, it has given me the opportunity to travel more. Like I got to go to Africa last year for a couple weeks and do different things. And one thing about the diving industry that's hard is you don't get a ton of time off. And when you do get time off, you're not being paid, so it makes it financially difficult to travel and get to dive in all these other like cool places. And so I started to kind of miss out on that. And I was like, I have a college degree, like I have a master's degree, I have work experience outside of diving. I should try to find something that could kind of help me, just be able to explore more and adventure more and dive in these like cool places that are on my bucket list. And so, yeah, but it's good. I enjoy it. It's interesting.
It's awesome that you are able to do that. And also, I think people don't realize it because they could see on your social media that you're solely diving.
Yeah.
And on the outside, it looks like you're just living off of diving.
Yeah.
But it's so important for people to understand that like others often do some other stuff a little bit more boring just so they can fulfill their dreams of diving after work.
Yeah, exactly. Such a good point because, yeah, I mean, if you look at my social media, it looks like that's all I'm doing is just like traveling the world and diving every day. That's certainly not the case. And it's a good, example of how, like, social media can be very deceiving and people are only showing you what they want you to see or like the fun and exciting parts of their life and stuff, But not all people. Some people are very vulnerable on social media, which is awesome. But yeah, it's like just a reminder that there's always like some behind the scenes stuff. And my full time job is working remotely. But you know what? I still get to dive on the weekends and I get to take time off to go swim with manatees.
That's amazing.
So, yeah.
So I'm very curious, and I think others are also curious as well. Have you ever had a close call with a shark?
Oh my goodness. I wouldn't say really like a close call, but I have had dives with sharks where I was like, okay, it's time for me to get out of the water. I'm going to give the sharks their space back. Diving with sharks is a lot of just like observing their behaviors and, even things as simple as like, well, I say simple, maybe it's not very simple to everyone, but watching their swim patterns and watching their movements and like just their body language. Like that's how we're able to kind of assume maybe like what they're feeling or like how they're trying to communicate to us or to other creatures in the water. So I've had a dive before, and it was actually here in Florida. I was with bull sharks, and the water clarity at the beginning of the dive, the water was beautiful, crystal clear. Sharks were just cruising around us, but like minding minding the space, not really coming in too close or anything like that. Because typically bull sharks can be like pretty shy and timid and stay a little bit further away. And then all of a sudden, the tide changed here. And when the tide changes here, it can like change the water quality very quickly. So the visibility was bad. And bull sharks will thrive off of some like low vis water. So their behavior is definitely like amped up a little bit. They start coming in real close, bumping into me, which is not something like I don't really want to be bumped into by a bull shark. I don't know if anybody wants that, but
No.
like swimming through my legs and just they were becoming very, very confident. And I was like, I'm going to get out of the water because they can
Wow.
see me better than I can see them right now. And yeah, it's time for me to like respect their space. And that's a lot of what shark diving is, though, is recognizing that I'm not invincible. I'm not trying to like prove that I am, smarter and stronger than a shark because I'm not. So, you got to be respectful of what they are, which is an apex predator, and like they're going to win. So,
Yeah. That's insane. It sounds like a quite intense experience though, but
yeah, yeah, it
awesome.
can be. But
Yeah.
most of the time with them, it's very, I would actually say, peaceful and fascinating, and just they're beautiful to watch in the water. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I dove with you, I think twice, and it was
Yes.
absolutely amazing.
Yes.
Sharks are intimidating, but so beautiful. And they are much more shy than people think they are.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's like, I think, especially working, on the boat where we would take people out diving with sharks for their first time. They'd never seen a shark before and they're going for the first time and they're so nervous, of course, which is super understanding and natural. And then they come out of the water and they're just amazed. They're like, wow, that was not what I thought at all. They were like 60 feet below us the whole time. They didn't even care that we were up here on the surface watching them. So, yeah, it's a very big learning experience, I'd say, because, media and TV and stuff, movies, Jaws, that's what people know. That's what they see. And so that's kind of what they expect. And then they're
Yeah.
pleasantly surprised that
But
it's
you're
not like,
trying to change that stigma.
yeah, yeah,
And
for
that's
sure.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. It was absolutely incredible talking to you. Your journey of reinvention is really, really insane. I love how you actually went back to your roots where you were hoping to be a marine biologist as a child, and now you can spend almost every day in the ocean. It's
Yeah.
absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. I'm happy that we got to talk and I got to share a little bit. And, I hope that I just want to encourage people to just, trust who they are and trust what they want and go after it and don't be afraid because you have one life to live. So why not?
Yeah, you're definitely an example that no matter what's happening, you should just follow your dreams and follow your gut feeling, and everything is going to work out.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Well, I'm happy we got to catch up. This was fun, actually. I feel like
Yeah.
it was a little bit of a therapy session for me. I'm like, oh shoot, like it makes you realize, like, yeah, I've actually been through a lot and done a lot, and I'm 32 years old. Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. I think people don't give themselves enough credit, and
Yeah.
I guess including myself. So it's nice also, not only for like people to hear your story, but it's like for yourself to hear your story.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Something I thought was interesting was in the very beginning, you asked me if I thought that I was resilient. And I just was like, oh, I don't really think of it that way. And then like at the end, you asked me, what's something you would say to your younger self? And I was like, that you're strong. And it's like how weird just having that whole conversation kind of brought me to this realization, like, no, wait, like I guess I am kind of resilient.
yeah, you are hella resilient.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
You're resilient, you're brave, you're confident.
Gosh, no. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, it's amazing. I mean, you're on such a great path, and
Yeah.
I really admire that you're able to find that passion that you can hold on to and do
Yeah.
what you love. So
And that passion, like we met through that. So I'm like, you know what? Everything happens for a reason.
yeah,
You have that passion too. So, be proud of yourself as well. You got to give yourself more credit.
thank you, thank you.
You're doing it, girl. You're a go getter. Like, you really are. So keep
Yeah.
it up.
At the same time, I have a feeling like the what I desire, like there are two things that like, oh, I want a family and kids, and like, but at the same time, like I want to keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I don't think like I would be even able to sustain another human being. Yeah.
It's okay.
Are you like, would you like to have kids and family?
We're probably very similar in that sense because it's like, yeah, like on one hand, yes, because, for how long do you live this life of bouncing around and doing all this crazy stuff? And, being selfish, things like that. But on the other hand, it's like, yeah, I mean, I can't even really imagine it right now. But it's interesting. It's weird. And especially, I mean, I've been single for like the past 6 years. We didn't even dive into that part, like the relationship stuff. But I'd been single, so it's like it's not really something that I like put a ton of thought into, just going with the flow right now. I mean, I love children.
I mean, throughout the conversation, you've mentioned so many times how you love children, how you love their energy, how you love working with them and sharing knowledge with them and supporting them. So the love for children is there. So
Yeah,
I think
totally.
you would do great as a mom.
Thank you. Right now, I'm just a good dog mom, and I'm happy with that. Gosh,
Yeah,
well,
but I mean, it sucks that there is the pressure for us of time. It's like, well, the clock is ticking.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I know.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I know, and it's weird because I used to always be like, "Oh, that's never gonna, that's never gonna bother me the way it bothers people," and now it's like when I'm in my, getting to be in my mid-30s, I'm like, "Oh, wait, I guess, yeah, you're kind of forced to think about it." It's,
Yeah.
tough, but hey, everything happens the way it's meant to, Timing and all of that is so huge, and I try to remind myself, what's meant to be will be, and there's a plan, it'll happen the way it's supposed to happen, and maybe that's adopting kids. You just never know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Right now just focus on you. Everything else will fall into place. Do things that
Hopefully.
make you happy and, go have fun.
Yeah. Even my friend in other podcasts, like he mentioned that his best friend had to tell him like, hey, calm down, you have more time than you think.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
thank you again.
Yes, of course.
Thanks for tuning in to the Reinvention Game. If today's conversation inspired you, I would love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment, share your story, or connect with us on Instagram at the Reinvention Game Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave your review, and share it with someone who's ready to start their own reinvention journey. Until next time, stay inspired and keep reinventing yourself.